Hello, Doug.
Hi, Sean.
Okay, we're flipping back here this week to both of us on camera, so we'll see how this goes and everything.
Good.
We thought today we'd talk about smart strategies if you're thinking of selling your home.
Right.
There are some things that people often forget about, or they don't know the statistics about what it takes to get your home sold quickly.
Sure.
And
sure.
so kind of some smart things that we maybe kind of do quite often. But one of them is pricing it right. You want to talk about pricing it right?
Right. The best thing to do is to get a good market analysis done on your home. It's called a competitive market analysis, and it's a comparison of your home with other homes that have sold recently. And the things to watch out for on that is to don't compare your home to most of the for sales active listings that haven't sold yet, because a lot of sellers tend to price their property over what it's really going to sell for. So by trying to come up with the exact selling price of your home that's not a good way to do it.
You're just looking at all of the other properties that haven't sold yet.
Right, and so that's not going to be very accurate.
Okay.
And then keep in mind that foreclosures do have a bearing on the market. You have to, everybody says, well, that was a foreclosure. Well, it was, but appraisers, when your house does sell, appraisers will be using those sold foreclosures to compare those to your home. Right. So you do have to take those into
even
account.
If it's not your house is maybe looks nicer and stuff. Right. They're looking at the overall difference in pricing, given that it's like in the same neighborhood as yours.
Right. So they're gonna give your home extra value because it's in better condition, maybe, but it's not gonna make up a lot of difference.
And let's say, and there was a good point here that we were reading. We were reminded of here while we're reading of this little flyer that we're sending out now. In terms of, let's say even you did set your price really high, and you found some buyer that really loved your particular house 5 or 10% more than like what another buyer would be willing to pay. Then what do you run into?
Yeah, the problem with that is that the buyer, of course, unless they're cash, they have to get a mortgage, and the mortgage company has to do an appraisal, and so that's the downfall. If the person is putting minimum down, like 5 or 10% down, and the appraisal comes in low from what they contracted with you as a seller to buy the house, they aren't going to have enough cash to make up the difference if the appraisal comes in low.
Right. And maybe if they do have all cash, or they got a lot of cash, then maybe they're willing to do that.
Yeah,
but
so
the bank's going to do their own appraisal anyway.
Yep, and
they're only going to loan off of the amount that they think the house is worth.
It's the lower of the appraised value or the purchase price, whichever one is lower. That's what they're going to use all their calculations on granting a loan to the new buyer. And also, the other thing is, even if the appraisal comes in okay, it still has to be okayed and reviewed by the mortgage company underwriter.
So there's kind of a couple of steps.
There's a second step. Now, it always used to, in years past, always used to be looked at the underwriter, but it was kind of a rubber stamp. Nowadays, with the more conservative underwriting standards, underwriters are asking for a second appraisal to agree with the first appraisal, and then there's another set of problems right there.
Right.
So that's why you want to be as accurate as you can on what the real value of your home is.
What about Doug? The first few weeks on the market.
Yeah, that's the most important. The first 30 days. It's a new listing. Buyers want to look at new listings. They've been out there looking at other homes, and a new one gets their excitement. So, and in these days, when a lot of buyers are looking on the internet, they might, if your home is overpriced, they're going to just go right by it and not even want to look at it. So that's another reason that pricing is real important.
And they were saying here nationally, new listings get 4 times as much web traffic as listings that are over 30 days old.
Yeah. So once you get past that 30-day mark, you got to be really careful about that, because getting the right buyer for your home is real critical in those first 30 days. Right. So after that,
because that's when you got the most attention.
Right. That's when you get the most attention. That's when you get the most views and the most amount of showings.
Okay. So, and then something else people don't think about is if they say, well, I don't need to sell my house in the first 30 days, is all the holding costs.
Right.
You got your mortgage payments, your taxes, all that stuff going back into your old house.
And if you're in a market, you can ask the person you're working with to get your home sold that in the market that we're in right now, every month might be a little bit of a decrease in the price because a lot of markets right now are still in a slight decrease. There is no appreciation right now. And so you've got that to consider too. So if we just looked at a home on the MLS that we told the seller 2 years ago that it was probably around $225,000 or $250,000, right in that mark. And
always do a range.
And they wanted to try to sell it for $325,000. It didn't sell.
Okay.
And now, sort of say the house is in foreclosure. Okay. It's owned by the bank now. And it's up for sale for $149,000.
$149,000 2 years later.
2 years later.
You thought maybe it would go for as much as $249,000.
So if they maybe would have sold it 2 years ago at $100,000 less than what they were hoping to get, they would have had their home sold. They would have gotten some cash out of the deal, and they wouldn't have had a foreclosure. So that's
none of those mortgage payments either that they probably.
It's an extreme example, but we've seen countless times where people are putting their. We had another one just now, the same thing, and it sold for $129,900, and they were hoping to get 3 years ago. They were hoping to get over $300,000.
Yeah.
So if they would have just lowered it down to $200,000, they would have gained a lot of money.
Because 3 years ago, and those are kind of some extreme examples where it's gone into foreclosure. But I mean, a lot of the markets that we track in the Twin Cities, it's not uncommon now that we're seeing 5 to 10% year-over-year reduction in average selling price. So, if you calculate that out on a monthly basis, that can kind of give you an idea. Maybe the market is declining 0.5% per month. So you're on the market for 3 extra months. That's 1.5% off of $200,000.
Yeah. And so, and this is my little take on it too. I've sold, a few houses, my own houses, over the last few years. And one thing that I hate, other than actually having to pack up everything and move all my stuff, is showings.
Right. Lots of showings.
Lots of showings. You don't really know. The more showings you have, you try to keep your house up to look nice. So the more showings you have, the more times you have to try to keep out your house.
Especially like if you had kids or something like that, I know about that.
Just consider that. It is a little bit of a stress factor on a lot of people that, especially if you have an animal or a dog or something you have to take care of and you don't know when that showing's coming, you have to always have these preparations made. So
a lot of work.
Yeah, personal preference, but some folks like myself like to get this up on the market, get a good price, but a fair price, and then get it sold, and then I don't have to have any more showings. And then one other thing that we're sending out this month is that I get a lot of this from sellers. Why do I have to help the buyer pay for his closing costs at his mortgage company?
Okay.
And I know some of us are maybe in the last, if you sold a home in the last 4 or 5 years, you might have picked up on that maybe you even asked the seller of your current home to pay for the mortgage cost. So that's an incentive you want to have in this market right now, to have buyers buy your home over your competitor's home, the home down the street from you, because by negotiating with the buyer on price and on helping to pay their closing costs, you are helping them out. That's an advantage you are having over maybe your competitors. And then the other thing that you can also think of, this is a little inside tip here, is that closing costs sometimes include real estate taxes. So if a lot of buyers these days are what we call cash poor. They're coming in minimum down, getting the maximum amount of mortgage. Again, back to the appraisal value, that would be really critical that it appraises out for what they want, because they don't have any cash to make up the difference. But in the real estate taxes can be paid by you. It's customary in a lot of communities for the seller and the buyer to prorate the taxes. So if we close on June 1st, I pay the real estate taxes for this year up to June 1st, and then the buyer moves in and they pay it after that. You can just offer to pay all of this year's taxes.
Right.
And that'll hold the cost down for the buyer.
Right.
So it's an incentive. So really, it's not so much what you're getting for the house; it's your net on the bottom after you pay.
It's not the sticker price; it's the total net and after what you can negotiate out.
There you go.
That might kind of motivate the buyer to buy your house if they're on the fence over closing costs or over some other house.
And here's another point too. Nowadays, builders are out there trying to move their product. The number of new homes sold in the United States is at an all-time low. I think it was only like 10% of the market was new homes this last year, or maybe it was 15, between 10 and 15.
Yeah, nationally, yeah.
You're competing against a brand new home. And in some states, like in Minnesota, a brand new home has no taxes. Hardly any real estate taxes for the first year. So you're trying to sell your home where the buyer is going to be jumping right in and paying taxes right out of the chute. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
So some strategies there for sellers. Hopefully that helps whoever's watching this video.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Doug.
Good. You bet. Thanks, Sean.